Hello and welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Charlene Manuel and I'm the Director of Education at AESC, and I'm really happy to welcome you to the AESC Cornell Advanced Certificate in Executive Talent Info session. So please note that this session is being recorded. And additionally, if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A feature to submit them. We're going to be covering questions at the end. So AESC, we have an exciting agenda for you. I'd love to kind of just talk right now about the partnership with Cornell. AESC and Cornell have been in partnership for 10 years. We've run this program both live in-person facilitation as well as virtual facilitation. And we've had well over 100 organizations worldwide participate, and we're really just delighted to share details about the upcoming program in September. And so to give you more information about an overview of the program, I'd like to connect to Siewert.
Great, thanks so much, Charlene, and welcome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session. Thank you so much for joining us. As Charlene mentioned, I'm here today. I'm going to be sharing with you some of the changes that we've incorporated into our program this year. We're going to be talking about the curriculum, and also I'll be sharing with you the program agenda. So as Charlene mentioned, this is a milestone year for us. It's the 10th year that we're jointly offering this program with our partners here at AESC. And one of the great things about our partnership is that each year the program evolves. So we meet with the team and we take into account changes that are happening in the global market, the executive talent industry, as well as what's going on with our latest Cornell faculty research. So this year we have focused the program curriculum around 3 core themes. And the themes are really intended to help shape and accelerate your strategies and practices. They combine the latest research and industry best practices from Cornell faculty, as well as our industry thought leaders. So the first theme over on the left, this focuses on trends through the lens of executive talent. And it also looks at this both from an external talent market perspective, as well as an internal organizational perspective. The second theme focuses on strategies for driving executive talent attraction and retention. And there's a number of topics covered under this. They include succession planning, executive assessments, influencing hiring decisions and presenting diverse slates, and also how to think about successfully onboarding executive talent. Finally, the third theme focuses on connecting leaders and culture. And here we're going to explore purpose-driven leadership and how effective leaders really shape organizational culture. And our final sessions focus on leading with courage. And this course will both challenge you. It will also help guide you to take more courageous action in your everyday practice. So across these 3 themes, we have 5 new courses. And in a moment, you're going to hear more about this from Brad Bell. He's a faculty member who teaches 2 of the new courses. So moving on, I am happy to share with you our program agenda. So this year, the program will run over 3.5 months. As you see, it starts in mid-September and it will end in early December. And our courses are delivered through a series of live virtual sessions. These sessions are held over Zoom, which many of you I know are familiar with. Sessions are usually 90 minutes in length. And this year, we've really designed the timing of this program and these live sessions to cater to participants who are in the Americas, Europe, and parts of the APAC region. One thing I wanted to point out is these live sessions, they're highly engaging. They're not lectures. They're a mix of group discussions, smaller breakouts, and activities. And your participation is not only welcomed, it's strongly encouraged. You'll really have the ability to dig into the content and examples, ask questions, and provide your own perspectives and sharing of best practices. There's a great deal of richness in these discussions, and the intent is to really push your thinking and spark new ideas. So during the 3.5 months, your cohort really becomes your learning community, and you'll have ample opportunity to get to know the other participants within the cohort along with the faculty. In addition to our faculty-led courses that are listed here, we have additional industry discussions that will also be added to the agenda. Finally, I wanted to just point out a requirement to receive the program certificate is for you to complete and present a final capstone project. And this is really an opportunity for you to reflect on and apply the program learnings to your own practice. These are team presentations, but everybody gets an opportunity to present. And we've built time into the calendar for you to meet with your team, to discuss ideas and to prepare your short presentation. Final presentations take place in December, and they're attended by the entire cohort as well as a Cornell faculty member. All right, now that you've sort of got an overview of what the program looks like this year, I'd like to introduce you to our next presenters who will share their perspectives about the program experience. First, I'd like to introduce you to Brad Bell. Brad Bell is a faculty member at Cornell, and he also teaches in the program, as I mentioned. Brad is the William J. Conaty Professor in Strategic Human Resources, and he is also our director for the Center for Advanced HR Studies at the Cornell ILR School. I'd also like to introduce Lynne Murphy-Rivera. Lynne is the Managing Director of the Americas for AESC, and she is also a past participant in the program. So with that, Lynne, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Karen. I am very pleased to be on this webinar today because I absolutely loved my experience at Cornell. I would like to share with you a few things as we have this discussion, as I talk with Brad. Brad, though, let me pivot over to you. This is our 10th year of AESC and Cornell jointly running this program. From a faculty perspective, how has the program evolved and changed over time? And what are you most looking forward to for this year's session?
Thanks, Lynn. Great to be with you today to talk a bit about the program. I think I maybe wasn't involved in the first year or two of the program, but I have taught in the program pretty much every year since. And one of the things I really enjoy about this program is that it does change from year to year. I'm not sure I've ever taught the same course twice over those kind of 8 or 9 years that I've been involved with the program. And you know, the reason it evolves is really to keep pace with changes and trends in the field. And as we're all aware, you know, there's been no shortage of disruption over the past few years in particular. Not only the COVID-19 pandemic, but also things like the Great Resignation, the heightened attention to issues surrounding diversity and inclusion, new ways of working, and really how workers and executives are really reevaluating, you know, what work means to them in their lives, the types of organizations they really want to align themselves with. You know, these types of trends are really significant in shaping, you know, human capital overall, but certainly executive trends as well. And so, you know, these changes are things that we've really been incorporating into the program, you know, over its lifespan, and in particular over the last, you know, few years as we think about new offerings and sessions. And so this year, you know, we've done that once again. As Karen mentioned, we have a number of new courses that will be offered as part of the program. You know, these are focusing on topics such as, you know, new work models, which I'll be kind of teaching in the program. Also things like creating a purpose-driven culture. We're hearing a lot more again as workers really reevaluate what they want from the organizations they align with. You know, a big part of that is purpose. And again, the goal of these types of sessions is really to continue to address these emerging trends and challenges. You know, these are just a few examples, but I think they reflect the fact that the program is always dynamic and is always being kind of changed or adjusted to make sure that it keeps pace with trends and changes in the field. So maybe with that, Lynn, I'll kind of, you know, kick it back to you in terms of, you know, from your perspective, a similar question as a past participant in the program, as well as a, you know, kind of leader at AESC. You know, in your mind, what makes this program, you know, so unique?
Well, that is a great question, Brad. as an alum of the program, I can say that there are three things that really stuck out for me, and then I'll share a little bit more. So it's number one, it's the peer-to-peer learning for me. That was really important for me to get a chance to talk with others in the profession around the world. And then there's the global focus, talking to people in, APAC, even regions around the US. I'm in New York. It was always interesting, the conversations that I had with my peers. And then the Cornell faculty, and Brad, that includes you. It was so enriching to learn from an academic standpoint the importance of education in the executive talent space. And I just think it's helped round our perspective of what we do day to day. And then finally, this program is the only program that is targeted specifically for the executive talent consultants in the world. And it's an industry recognized leader. It is a credential that basically provides us with a framework and strategies. And while we might do things differently around the world, this is the education and the conversation, the participation kept us on some foundational footing of the profession of executive talent. And I think the final part would be the close relationships that we've developed around the world as a result of the cohorts that we were placed in. And of course, that capstone project that was, a lot of anxiety, but a lot of success and satisfaction at the end, knowing that we accomplished something together. So yeah, that's what it means to me. And that's why it was so important. So Brad, over to you. I'd like to know about your sessions, which, they focus on the world of work and the changing world of work in particular, and new models and managing leadership pipelines. And with the pace of change, things are changing so rapidly. I can't keep up. Things like the world of work and how it's affected in different parts of the world. Can you give us a little hint of what your sessions will be like for this coming year, given all those changes, if you can even forecast what you might be covering with all the changes?
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. I'm really excited to teach these two sessions in the upcoming program. Like you said, I think this will be kind of in real time, because I'm sure even between now and then, this is a very kind of dynamic space in terms of we're seeing constantly changes in how companies are managing these new work models and their implications. I really see these two sessions I'll be teaching around kind of new work models, changing, ways of working, and leadership pipelines as really being interconnected or intertwined. We've seen obviously a dramatic shift in work models over the last few years. It's not to say that remote and hybrid work are new. They were certainly around prior to the pandemic. And they were even on the rise before the pandemic, with more and more workers, finding themselves in these work models. But certainly over the last few years, they've really become the dominant way that work is being done. And I think everyone agrees that they're probably here to stay. And while these models offer many benefits to both employees and organizations, we know that they also come with certain challenges. And one of those challenges really surrounds, how do we lead people from a distance? For most of history, if we really think about it, leaders have really often been co-located with their followers. And that kind of norm of leadership has really been upended in recent years, with leaders really interacting with followers increasingly virtually, through technology and other means. And so as we think about this, that we really need to think about then, what are the implications of these new work models for leaders, leadership, and how we groom and develop and attract leaders in our organizations. And so, what I hope to focus on is really how organizations are thinking about the profile of kind of future leadership in their organization, and how that is different maybe than what they looked for in the past. Does this mean that everything we've ever thought about leadership kind of goes out the window? No, but I think it does suggest that we need to find people that are proficient from leading from a distance. We need to find leaders that are really effective at flexing across these different work models, thinking about managing some employees who may be in person, some that are working entirely remotely, and some that are probably in that hybrid mode, switching across these different modalities. I also think the kind of switch in ways of working and the implications of technology are also changing how companies are developing leaders and grooming future leaders. Increasingly, leadership development programs have moved online. We're thinking about how do we leverage technology to provide more peer-to-peer and social learning. You know, in the past, that might have happened more organically in the workplace, but now that's happening more through technology. So I think this also has implications for how companies are thinking about managing those leadership pipelines. So my hope at the end of the day is that as we do these two sessions, that participants will really be able to walk away from them thinking about, you know, how these new work models have important implications for the work that they do as executive search and leadership talent consultants. So, you know, Lynne, I'd like to go back and to a point you just kind of mentioned briefly, which is that kind of peer-to-peer learning aspect. And I know in my experience interacting with participants over the years in this program, it's something that they often highlight as really a key value add of the program. I think, you know, I hope they get something from our faculty-led sessions and what we bring to the table, but I think they get, you know, just as much, if not sometimes more, from really hearing the experiences of their peers. And so you talk a little bit about how the diversity and background of roles that kind of show up in this program have really shaped those discussions and what you as a participant got from the program.
Certainly. So thank you, Brad. One thing that comes to mind immediately is, you know, in my past experience as an alum, half of the class of the cohort was from Asia Pacific, and the other half was the Americas. So what I found right off the bat were the different ways in communicating, the different ways, perspectives, you know, particularly when you talk about the diversity topic of older participants and more seasoned clients. So we had one consultant talk about how he had to talk differently to different age groups within his, you know, within his clientele. And we found that quite unique on the Americas side because, you know, I think we came along a different path in that regard. We talked about ethnic changes and cultural changes. And I think what that did for me particularly and for the participants is a greater awareness of differences around the world and how we have to be respectful and aware and continue to endeavor to learn about what those changes and perspectives are so that we can basically communicate on the world scale. So it's just incredibly valuable for us to learn about as executive talent in this global landscape, to learn about what's important on other sides of the world and incorporate that into how we talk and how we communicate and the stories we tell to, you know, to our clientele. So I think there was the consistent back and forth and sharing among the class, you know, when we would break out in small sessions and talk, also in the cohorts that the groups that we were assigned for our capstone project. These are all ways that we found the diversity of the class and had an opportunity to learn from each other. So very valuable, Brad. I'd like to ask a question of you now, just sort of pivoting. Cornell, you know, is an Ivy League university, and you know, therefore, this certificate affords participants the opportunity to learn the latest trends from an academic perspective, and that's one of the benefits of the program. How do you select which research to present, and what qualities do you use to determine the value of a trend? Very curious about that.
Yeah, thanks, Lynne. You know, I think one of the things that makes the ILR school at Cornell unique is that our faculty are really not just kind of leading academics, but they are also regularly interfacing with the kind of practice community. much of our research here in the ILR school is conducted out in the field. We work with companies, we work with organizations to go in and examine, topics that are within our various research fields. And in addition, we regularly engage in programs like this one, where we are interfacing with practitioners and hearing their experiences, kind of managing talent. And so I think the result is that our faculty are really able to come at topics with both kind of, looking at it from what does the science, what does the kind of academic literature and research say about a topic, but also what are the real kind of world implications of this. And I think that's unique because I think some faculty maybe have a tendency to sit in their ivory tower and think big thoughts, which are really disconnected from reality at the end of the day. Or on the other side, you have a lot of people that are maybe out there just kind of chasing the latest fad, but don't really have any real kind of evidence or research to back it up. And so our faculty are able to combine those two perspectives. What do we know based on research and science? What are we seeing based on our conversations and interactions with practitioners out in the field? And I think that allows us to differentiate the kind of passing transitory fad from real significant changes in human capital trends. And so, I think in this program, our faculty are able to come in and really kind of merge those two perspectives to provide participants with real insights into the trends that are important, the trends that they should really be focusing on, and are able to provide real evidence-based solutions and recommendations for them on how they should be thinking about those trends and managing those in their own work going forward. And I think, and I hope that at the end of the day, that creates a richer learning experience, but also one that participants are able to leave with more meaningful and actionable takeaways that really drive value for them and their clients. So maybe one more question for you, Lynn, before maybe we go to some Q&A here from the audience. Every year AESC and Cornell work together to update the curriculum and content to make sure it's relevant and valuable. I think we've touched on that a bit, in our discussion here today. I'm curious from your perspective, how do you think the topics that we're covering and how we cover them really add value to participants and allow them to create a kind of competitive edge when providing kind of services to their clients?
Sure, Brad. And, as you mentioned, the Cornell faculty is not in an ivory tower, just sort of idly researching and not really in touch with the world. I think that by working with the faculty, we ensure that those latest trends and academic research are reflected in our curriculum. And so, participants are able to hear this knowledge firsthand from experts, and therefore there will be an early implementation of this knowledge. And I can also say that by focusing on the content of the course into the three main areas of focus that Karen mentioned earlier, we ensure that we have a well-rounded curriculum. And I think the structure allows us to cover a variety of topics. And therefore we're, again, I think it just gives us that expansive, global, yet highly relevant edge, if you will. And it also makes it really exciting as a participant. So I look forward every week to my class and, meeting with the professor. So I think part of that is the fact that we picked those topics well, and we were very thoughtful in how we did that. So.
Great. So maybe I think we'll turn it back to Karen and Charlene, maybe to go through some questions that have come in from the audience members.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both. And thank you, Karen, as well. We do have a couple of questions from the audience. So the first question is, what happens if I'm unable to attend a live session? Karen?
Yes,
can I take this?
Thank you, Charlene. I'll take this. So all of the live sessions are going to be recorded. So you'll have an opportunity. We have a repository that we use, Canvas, and all of the materials of the program will be there. It will also house the recordings. We strongly, obviously, encourage you to attend the live sessions because that's where the richness happens. But obviously, we know that schedules can sometimes limit you from attending every weekly session, but they will be recorded.
Great, thank you so much, Karen. Another question is asking about the time commitments and you know, again, is there any homework and what types of assignments are really included in order to receive the certificate?
I'll answer that one. I think that was a big concern among my cohort coming in. You know, oh my goodness, how much homework would I have? But I think what was really helpful for us is that the homework was designed to fit within a day-to-day schedule. You know, the busy consultant, you know, was able to their work was more enhanced. Their day-to-day work was enhanced by the homework that we assigned or Cornell assigned. And also, you know, as I mentioned earlier, you look forward to the hours because you're applying what you've learned, you know, so it was a real integration of the homework that you had versus your day-to-day. And the program runs, it's a 4-month program. And over this time, you will commit to about, I would say 30 hours to the program. And then each month, you'll attend 4 to 6 60-minute, 4 to 6 60 to 90-minute sessions. And then there is approximately, it depends on how much you want to work, but 1 to 2 hours of independent work per month. I'll just add a quick aside. On my capstone project, I had the ESG topic, and I spent a lot of time because I was really interested in the topic. So it really depends on what do you want to bring to it, but we don't want to give you, the program doesn't give you more than you can handle within your day-to-day. And I've alluded to the capstone project twice. We have to complete that project. That's part of the completion. There is no grade on it, but we work as if we all want to get A's. You know, we want Brad Bell and the other professors to, you know, say great job. So, you know, we work really hard on that, and you learn a lot, and you can take it back to your day-to-day.
That's great. Thank you so much, Lynn. Two other questions. So someone has asked, who said that DEI is a really top priority for their organization. They noticed that in the topics, there wasn't a DEI session. Are these the only kind of topics that are covered, or can someone speak to that? Brad, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, happy to take that one. And I'll also just comment on the last question around the homework, because as faculty, as we assign homework for this program, I think we're mindful, obviously, that, you know, the participants in this program are working full time, they're busy professionals. The goal is not to kind of overwhelm people with homework. You know, here in the ILR school, we have our undergrads have a saying that ILR stands for I love reading, because faculty assign so much reading, but that's undergraduates, they're full-time students. Here, we really try to assign, you know, manageable homework that really adds value to the learning experience, whether that's reading, some discussion questions. You know, often the homework is socially based, so participants are interacting around a kind of prompt. And so, you know, our goal is to enrich the learning experience, not just add on, you know, busy work, as I think Lynn nicely highlighted in her comments. To the DEI, you know, I think you could look at the curriculum and say, oh, you know, where's DEI? That's an important topic, it's missing. You know, but I think if you really think about organizations that do DEI well, they integrate it into everything they do. It's not a standalone function. It's not the responsibility of just a certain group within the organization. It's really everyone's responsibility. It's something that needs to be thought about in every aspect of our kind of human resource management practices. And so that's really how we approach in this program, is thinking about how does it interconnect with the different topics that we'll be covering. For example, going back to new ways of working, what are the implications of these new models of work for DE&I? Or as we think about making hiring decisions or managing executive transitions, how do we make sure that we have DEI kind of front and center as we think about, you know, those processes and practices? And so I think, you know, as we go through our curriculum within this program, DEI shows up probably in every single topic in one form or another. But it's not kind of a standalone, because we really think it needs to be something that's touched on in every part of the conversation that we have as we go through.
Great. Thank you so much, Brad. That was a really great answer and really helpful to know. The last question is really actually looking again at the cohort. So, what are some of the benefits of working with the cohort over the course of the program? What are the networking opportunities with the other participants?
Sure. So I'll just start off with one of the benefits that I recall from my cohort, and just not just my group, but that I worked with particularly on the project, but the whole cohort. What was quite interesting is that there was a combination of in-house talent executives as well as outside recruiters, executive recruiters. So, and actually one, I think, had just left a very large organization to join an in-house. So his perspective was quite interesting because he could talk about what it was like to be an outside, or an executive recruiter from a recruiting firm, as opposed to his new role, in comparison to his new role as global in-house talent. And so you learn about the different sides of executive talent and what the challenges are. And I think in terms of benefits and opportunities to network, that says it alone, that, if you're an in-house talent executive, if you're, out with an outside firm, you can learn more about how to better communicate with each other for business development reasons. So a very clear benefit there.
I'll maybe just build on that from the faculty perspective. I think one thing, again, I've seen in my years teaching this program is having a cohort that goes through this program over a several month period. I think they develop a level of familiarity with one another, which really enriches the discussions that take place in these live sessions. And, that I think comes in two forms, which is one, kind of an openness and willingness to really listen to other people's ideas and opinions, but also the comfort, I think, due to that familiarity of pushing back and having a real dialogue. It's not competition, it's not conflict, it's just a really kind of rich intellectual discussion among people that respect one another. And that respect comes through the process of being together for an extended period of time, going through this shared experience together. So I think that's very different than a program where you might just pop in, with a group of random people you don't know, and you probably are maybe a bit shy to speak up. I think that lockstep part of a cohort of people going through really creates a much more enriched social learning experience.
Exactly. I do have one more thing to add to that, because Brad, you just reminded me when, there was a start of the program, there was one of the participants, or maybe one or two, who were not as, they didn't raise their hand a lot. They sat back a lot. And then over time, with just very shortly, with feeling more comfortable with the cohort, with the professors, with their peers, they wound up being like some of the most engaged and outspoken of the group. And I found that, that's professional development underscored. So, and I was very happy to see that.
That's so great. Thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you so much, Karen, and for everyone who for joining us, whether live or at a later date. And as a reminder, the program does run from this September to December, and the program is open for registration. So if you have any further questions, you can always contact education@aesc.org. And we can either answer your questions or put you in touch with Karen and Alona at Cornell. But otherwise, we are very grateful for everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.